The talk of the town in Canada is Justin Trudeau, but and I quite mean this as literally as literal can possibly mean. It's never in a positive light. Justin Trudeau is finding himself in the middle of controversy after controversy, protest after protest. It does not end. It will never stop. And it's literally picking up more steam as every day passes. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. This is very exciting. We're taking a look at a few things. We've got an update in the polls. We've got a new farmers protest that has broken out in Canada, specifically in Quebec. We've got quite a few different things that are trending across X, formerly known as Twitter. There's a lot of things to cover in this video, so I really want to encourage you guys to stick around for the full thing if you can. And before we get into it, I do want to encourage you guys to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does really help grow the channel. And once you're subscribed, there's that little bell icon that shows up. If you just click and tap that, it adds a layer of insurance. You can actually be notified of upcoming videos and stay in the loop. Without further ado, let's get into it. So we've got the polls. Conservatives are still sitting at 208 projected seats, bottom line 180, top end 226, and 99% likelihood of winning the most seats, 99% likelihood of winning a majority government. No change, no movement. That's all right. I've called it before, and I will reiterate my position again on this. I do think that you're going to start to see the bottom line of 180 projected seats slowly start to crawl before the summer break, very near 200. I think that the projected seats for the Conservatives is going to climb and climb and climb to about 215, 220 right before the summer break, because everything's just steamrolling. Things are picking up so much more mainstream media attention, social media attention. It's not looking good for Justin Trudeau across the board, especially when you have clips like this, where you have an extraordinary win for Canadians. Let's take a look.
After 8 years of Justin Trudeau, we're now seeing historic levels of corruption, with the House now using a power it hasn't used in 100 years to have Christian Firth of GC Strategies, which of course is Justin Trudeau's favorite two-person basement operation that was part of his $60 million Arrive scam, one of the principals of that company being called to the bar of the House of Commons. This is extraordinary, and as I said, a historic tool that's being used by Parliament. Why? Because we had a refusal to answer questions at a parliamentary committee, getting answers for Canadians about waste, corruption, and scandal. And this is at a time, of course, when Canadians are struggling to feed their families and pay their bills, and not a single Trudeau minister has lost their job. This is extraordinary. In the private sector, this kind of incompetence or corruption would surely see people fired. But we are using this tool. This has been invoked by the full House of Commons to have Mr. Firth come before the bar to be admonished by the Speaker for flouting, for refusing to answer the questions of parliamentarians that were duly put to him in Justin Trudeau's $60 million Arrive scam. And he will answer questions that parliamentarians put to him, because Canadians deserve answers. This is a scandal where we only have the information that we do have because Conservatives have forced now more than a dozen investigations, including the Auditor General investigation, which is one that Justin Trudeau and every one of his ministers voted against actually having that audit by the Auditor General. So we're going to continue to force answers in this historic scandal.
Dude, this is awesome. It turns out that you can't hide from the law. And even Justin Trudeau and his little buddies, they can't hide. And it's taken a lot of time. But like you just heard the Conservative MP say, this is something that hasn't been used in for 100 years in Canada. Justin Trudeau is setting records. He is setting records that is going to be in the history books. It's going to be set in stone. And there's no coming back from this, especially when you have, yet again, even more testimonies like this one of unaffordability here in Canada. You have on X, Wall Street Silver is posting a video of somebody that says, I've had 5 Uber drivers tell me they're no longer staying in Toronto. How can the average person afford this country anymore? Let's take a look.
I've had now 5 Uber drivers tell me they're no longer staying in Toronto. In fact, they're actively looking to leave Toronto. And I was reading somewhere that Canada is no longer in the top 10 countries of the richest countries in the world. So what's happening? Our rents are going up, inflation's high, interest rates are high. How can the average person afford this country and this city anymore? And what's going to happen to our city in the next 5 years? I've had now...
The average person can't. I mean, even if you're above average and you're making $200,000, $300,000 a year and you're living in a major city like Toronto or Vancouver or Montreal or whatever it is, chances are you're still likely suffering because rent and mortgages and the cost of living is absurd. It's insane. And speaking of cost of living, that's why you have, these protests breaking out across the country. And it's not just by foot. It's not just in small numbers. And it's not just once in a blue moon. It's almost every week, certainly every weekend. But today we're taking a look at a special one. You have farmers' protests. That's right. Farmers' protests are erupting all across Quebec. No farmers, no food. Let's take a look at this here. This is from Dacey Media, Chris Dacey on X. Now we're going to pause that music. And it's not just a couple tractors either. There are hundreds of tractors all coming together in solidarity of protesting. And I know a lot of people, they look at this and they say, well, that's stupid. You're protesting the carbon tax, which is a cost on fuel, and then you're spending fuel to go and protest that exact cost. If you just didn't protest, you would be spending less on fuel. And to those people, I say, go F yourself. Seriously. People have the right to protest. And unless people are actually protesting, you wouldn't really be raising this type of awareness. Everybody across the board is feeling the pinch, the financial pinch that this liberal government has inflicted. A tremendous amount of pain on everybody. And the only way that we can really get people's attention and wake people up is if there's some sort of shakedown, a legal shakedown, right? Through protesting, legal protesting, peaceful legal protesting. Why am I saying legal so much? Man, Canada has made protesting in certain ways illegal. So you got to say legal, you got to say peaceful. You just got to, they come together. They're hyphenated. It's one word now. It's not just protesting. It's legal, peaceful protesting. Aye, aye, Trudeau. That's how you say it. All right. We got another clip from Dacey Media. It's Ontario farmers' turn. Tractors and trucks are rolling through Pickering, headed to protest an MP's office. Look at that.
Come on, farmers all across this country. Jump in those tractors. Let's go. And don't forget the shit spreaders.
Don't forget the shit spreaders. Yeah. All across the country. And this started in Europe. This is a global movement, folks. A lot of this isn't just, it's not just a carbon tax. It's also the World Economic Forum's influence on the agriculture sector and having farmers across the world. But it started in Europe, of course, having them change the way they do things to meet certain new goals.
I got to get back in my car.
And look, if this was a scam, if none of this made any sense, you wouldn't have.
Sorry, give me a sec.
You wouldn't have hundreds of thousands of farmers across the world coming together, all in solidarity against these emission goals, against these carbon taxes, well, specifically in Canada, right? People aren't just blindly jumping into the protests, right? It's a lot of money to operate a tractor. It's a lot of money to operate a farm. It's a livelihood. It's not just a hobby. It's not just an everyday job. Being a farmer is some serious business, right? With great power comes great responsibility, as Uncle Ben once said on his deathbed. But farmers really they're pissed off, man. They're pissed off around the world. It started in Europe and now it's spread to Canada. But the thing that's unique about Canada is our carbon tax. That's the thing that's really unique here. It's not really yet infected the rest of the world. And I don't know if it will, because the rest of the world is seeing how Canada, peaceful, law-abiding Canadians, are handling an increase in taxes. And we're not too happy about it, right? That's why you're seeing all these protests erupt everywhere. So even though you think that it's small potatoes, small beans, it doesn't really play a big thing to show up to these protests, it really does. It has a lingering trickle effect. I mean, look what happened with the Freedom Convoy. The Freedom Convoy started in Canada, right? Some people thought, hey, you know what? Let's try this out and see what happens. It was right time, right place, right people. Bam! It went viral, not only in Canada, but around the world. You had countries all around the world that had their own version of a Freedom Convoy. Even America, this year in 2024, America had a massive Freedom Convoy down in Texas that garnered millions of views and millions of supporters. So like these protests, man, they spiral, they turn into something, right? It's like a snowball. It's incredible what's going on. We have another clip here that says no farmers, no food. Canadian farmers are out in numbers in Quebec today. I'm going to mute that music though. There you go. Bunch of farmers pulling into a parking lot. Looks like a plaza. There's a Dollarama there. Might be a Walmart as well. That's awesome, man. You got dozens of farmers. You got people standing there too with their signs. Look at all those tractors, man. Look at all those freaking tractors. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of pissed off farmers. And every single one of these operators, every single one of the people that have their own tractor, right? It might be a couple tractors per farm that are showing up, but this is a lot of agricultural influence here in Canada, all in one shot, not just in one camera footage, but also in one parking lot. And when all these people come together and they stand in solidarity against government corruption, against things that are affecting them, we're going to feel it. We're going to feel the impacts of this, right? You're going to start to see eventually less food on the shelves, and there's going to be a state of panic, and the government may not know how to handle that properly. And the only way that we can really get through this is if we come together. We got to come together in solidarity on our goals, on our mission, and that is saying no to the WEF and saying no to the liberal, stupid policies like the carbon tax. Let's take a look here. We got Daisy Media once again on X, and Canadian farmers are on the move again in Quebec. All right.
Good morning, everybody. I made it out here to Quebec for the tractors. Heading to Vaudreuil. On y va aujourd'hui.
That is a lot of people, man.
And the little cars can go at the end. I'm here and I made it. Awesome.
Look how far down that goes. That goes almost a kilometer down. You know what? Though I'd like to take this time right now to pass the question off to you guys, the viewers. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about these ongoing farmers' protests? And not just the farmers' protests, but all of the protests that are happening across Canada, whether it's the carbon tax, whether it's the WEF, whether it's a combination of both, whether it's just a generic F. Trudeau protest, because those happen almost everywhere. The Trudeau regime shows up, whether it's Trudeau individually with his convoy or for some sort of liberal event, right? And then there's also the Palestinian protests. There's a lot of protests, a lot of different ways, a lot of different flavors to take your pick at why you don't like Justin Trudeau in Canada. And I am still under the impression that these protests are going to pick up. There's going to be more. It might not always involve tractors. It might not always involve vehicles, but I really do firmly believe that there is so much hatred. There's so many negative emotions attributed to Justin Trudeau, the state of Canadian politics, just our government, and, the lack of competence and the lack of understanding, the lack of empathy right now. that I think that these protests are going to pick up, and well, especially since we're getting closer and closer to an election, I think they're going to pick up this summer. There might be a little bit of a lull as we approach winter, and then in 2025, I think it's going to be insane. I think there's going to be protests everywhere. And even if they double down, triple down on online censorship, right, free speech, they get rid of all of that stuff here in Canada, you're still going to see people come together and they're going to protest, because when there's a will, there's a way. At least that's the word on the street here in Canada. Anyways, let's move on here. You've got Rex Glacier on X saying Prime Minister Trudeau, his oldest son Xavier, and 51 others, $200,000 spent on in-flight catering for 51 people on a junket. That's over $3,900 per person to eat on airplane food. I can assure you there were no overall people on that party plane. And for those who don't know why or what that reference is to overall people, it was something that, I'm going to leave this up to your interpretation if this is offensive or not. But this is what Justin Trudeau had to say about overall people.
A few years ago, I was in Hamilton in a classic steel plant, and I was meeting some of those overall folks who were proud to say that they were third and even fourth generation steel workers in Hamilton.
Blue collar workers. That's what Justin Trudeau refers to. He doesn't say hardworking Canadians. He doesn't say law-abiding Canadians. Refers to anyone who does labor as overall folks. I don't know, man. Wearing overalls isn't offensive. It's not derogatory, but I guess it's how you say it. And then in the context that you say it, that could be a little bit insensitive and a little bit demeaning. But nonetheless, I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments about that Justin Trudeau controversy. Next up, we have Canada's close to $2 trillion in debt and increasing daily. The debt has to and will be paid either in the form of higher prices or loss of human life. What's coming cannot be stopped. That's insane. And somebody actually broke down our debt. Our debt increases by $220 million per day. That is not a typo. That's very scary, folks. That is very scary. And I want to know, are you feeling in debt? Are you feeling some sort of financial pinch? It has nothing really to do with personal debt. It's just government spending, but it's just scary times. It's absolutely scary times. And when you look at what they plan on doing, you've got articles like this that come out and just add more fuel to the fire. How will Liberals pay for the billions in promised spending? Loans. Freeland won't say if wealth taxes are coming. It just seems like at every turn, they try to tax people more and more and more to cover their asses on all of the federal money that they've promised, that they've already pledged or spent. And it's not to go to pay off the debt; it's to actually accumulate more money to spend more to further our debt. Now, I'm not a bookkeeper. I'm not I'm not super big on numbers. I'm definitely not a financial planner by any means, but I don't think that that's the best way to spend money. And I feel like I personally could do a better job of balancing the books than what our current government can do. At least I would be prioritizing Canada over other countries when it seems to be the opposite right now. It seems like everyone in charge is prioritizing other countries over just growing and prospering our own economy. And that is how you lose an election, and that's how you destroy a party. So good job, Justin Trudeau and Liberals, for tanking the Liberal Party for the next 15 to 20 plus years and bringing so many people together through solidarity and protesting and just overall hatred towards our government, or at least detest towards our own government. But as we approach the end of the video, I'd like to know what you guys think down below in the comments. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about any of the topics that were mentioned in this video, please let me know down below. And that's where we're going to end it, folks. So on your way out, I'd really like to encourage you guys to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.